Good evening. Today is the 1st of January 2020, and as we usher in this new year and more importantly this new decade, we have a comprehensive lineup of stories, and we would also like to wish our loyal viewers a very happy and prosperous new year. I'm Jamal Ratnayaka for the Newsfirst team, and this is Primetime News on TV1. A very good evening to you, Portia.
A very good evening, Jamal. We would like to wish all our viewers a very happy new year, and before we head into your stories in detail, let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Prime Minister's expectation of obtaining a majority in 2020. Is it not possible to carry out investigations into the bond scam, Sons Arjuna Mahendran? Professor Pratibha Mahanamaheva explains. Dr. Vijay Das Rajapaksa presents a recommendation to introduce an amendment to the constitution.
ජනාධිපතිවරයා විසින් ආරක්ෂක අමාත්‍යාංශය අන්සතු නොකළ යුතුයි.
People of Sri Lanka and around the globe welcome the New Year 2020 with many hopes and aspirations. This New Year marks a significant feat as the third decade of the 21st century was dawned with the New Year.
This is how people started off their New Year, attending religious observances early morning today. Our cameras were able to capture how the Pinnavela Elephant Orphanage celebrated the New Year. Issuing a message in light of the New Year, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa says any forces which hinder the expectations of the people will be eliminated. He adds that the refreshed sense of hope which has been created in the hearts of the people of this country will aid in the vision to create a prosperous country. In his New Year message, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says Sri Lanka should strive to achieve all its objectives during the newly dawned third decade of the 21st century. The Prime Minister says he wishes all aspirations of Sri Lankans would be fulfilled this year. Issuing a New Year message, Sajith Premadasa says it is his wish for this year to be a peaceful and harmonious year for Sri Lankans, which would be spent with mutual understanding. The message adds identifying our strengths and improving them further would help us be successful in the future. Former President Maithripala Sirisena, wishing all beloved Sri Lankans a happy New Year, adds his wish in light of the New Year is for all citizens to have a prosperous and happy 2020. He adds, the time has now arrived for all to overcome obstacles and achieve objectives individually and as one nation. Former Governor of the Western Province and the leader of the National Unity Alliance made a statement in light of the New Year as well. In his release, he says the New Year 2020 is being flagged off this year with high hopes and expectations of the people who want to be governed with peace, security and happiness.
Now, officials of the state sector also assumed duties in the new year by pledging the collective public service oath today.
Officials at the Presidential Secretariat assumed their duties this morning after attending a ceremony at the Secretariat premises. Starting the new decade, the officials swore the public service oath at the ceremony as well. The ceremony was held under the auspices of the Secretary to the President P.B. Jayasundara. Thereafter, the President met with the officials at the Presidential Secretariat.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa saw the dawn of the new year while engaging in religious observances at the Katharagama temple.
After paying his respects at the Kirivihera in Katharagama last evening, he then proceeded to the Ruhunu Katharagama Mahadevalaya to receive blessings. He then attended an event held at the Vajiragiriya Mahavihara in Tangol this morning. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa then presented 100 food hampers to pregnant mothers on the sponsorship of a number of local voluntary organizations. In this new year, I feel it will be a year where the President will fulfill promises he has made to the people. We are still a minority government. We have not established a government yet. Even though we have a government, the opposition consists of a larger part of parliament. We can only establish a proper government after the upcoming general elections. I remind you that it is a year where elections will happen and promises will be fulfilled.
Now, what can we expect or what will happen in 2020? Just as we have done in previous years, we here at News First will remain committed this year as well to bring you the most accurate and detailed updates from the incidents which occur here at home and all around the world. Here is a highlight of what we can expect in the year of 2020.
2019 was an end of a decade. 2020 is the dawn of a new and a fresh decade. Now, when we wish someone for the new year, we say them, wish you a happy and a prosperous new year. For a country to be prosperous and flourish, its economy should be at its level best. However, Sri Lanka is currently at a very critical and a challenging juncture. We are faced with the loan repayment, which is recorded the highest ever in Sri Lanka, $4.8 billion in loan repayments. The country was battered hard and its tourism had a major downfall during the April 21st attacks, and many investments which were supposed to arrive in the island were delayed. However, the government has provided many concessions and benefits for the people starting from today. The year 2020, what will it be? Will the economy flourish? How will the government cope up with the loan repayment, which is the highest ever recorded in the island? What will happen in 2020? That will be decided during the next 12 months.
2019 is over, 2020 is here. But the question is, what will happen in the political arena now that the new year has dawned? Some of the questions that are on people's minds are, when will the general election be called? What will happen in Parliament? Will Parliament be prorogued? Will Parliament be dissolved? When will there be a general election? There are many expecting general elections to be called for in April or May. Then there's the question of the provincial council elections. Who are the new faces? Who are the new personalities the public will have the opportunity to vote for at these upcoming elections? Then there's the question of alliances. What will happen in the north and the east? What will the Tamil political parties decide? Will they run for the elections independently, or will they contest under a broader alliance? Then there's the question of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. What will happen to the executive presidency? These and many more burning questions are on everyone's minds, and we'll certainly keep a watch on what's going to happen here in 2020.
Can you imagine how challenging it must be for the Australians to walk into 2020 while so many parts of the country are battered by raging wildfires? So many houses have been destroyed and people have been affected. How will the Australian authorities face this problem and bring a solution to them in 2020? We will have to wait and see. Now, America is a country that has an impact over many countries in the world and has a say in many issues in the world. The latest is the tension between Iraq and America. Now, few hours before New Year dawned, the US Embassy in Baghdad, Iraq was attacked and so many protests were taking place. However, President Donald Trump says that Iran should be accused for being the invisible hand behind this whole issue. China and America have been having an issue, a trade dispute for a long period of time, and so many people, so many parties have been affected by it. But US President Donald Trump says that this all will come to an end when he signs a trade deal with China in 2020. Another reason why 2020 is important is that in November this year, US will appoint their new president. Speaking about our closest friend, our neighbor India, there have been so many protests taking place in many parts of the country. Although the proposal was put forward in 2019, what will happen in 2020?
It is a leap year, and that means only one thing, It is an Olympic year. The Olympics will return to Tokyo after 56 years for Tokyo 2020. For the first time ever, Sri Lanka is going to be playing a qualifier for the World T20 that's supposed to take place in Australia later this year. Now, Sri Lanka is also set to tour India, they're also set to tour Zimbabwe, and also we'll have a few teams coming into the island for some series as well. Now, in the meantime, it's a year full of Cricket World Cups. The Sri Lanka Under-19 team will also be heading to South Africa for the Under-19 World Cup. The Sri Lanka women's team will be heading to Australia for the Women's Cricket World Cup. But don't forget, stay tuned as we continue to bring you the very latest from the sporting field, the very latest from the international arena, and the very latest from the local arena, be it politics, economics, or anything related. Stay tuned to News First. Have a great year.
Now, News First highlighted several facts on the repayment of debts which should be completed in this new year. Economic experts point out the bond scam played a major role for the massive amount of debt that we are currently burdened by.
The debt burden of the country has risen rapidly over the years, and as a result, the total debt which should be paid off by the end of this year stands at 12,863.5 billion rupees. Several reasons, such as failing to increase government income, obtaining loans for large-scale projects and obtaining commercial loans without any concessions, have caused the debt burden to rise rapidly. Economists also point out that the occurrence of the bond scam and the subsequent increase in interest rates of the country, resulting in the depreciating of the rupee, is another major factor which has caused the debt burden to increase.
The government has taken a lot of amount of money, around 5 billion US dollars they have taken. So therefore, there will be a huge pressure on the paying back our loans. Actually, we know that one of the reasons behind the high debt in Sri Lanka has been the bond scam problem in Sri Lanka. We had, because interest rate went up and our amount of money we have to pay is going up because government has to pay higher interest rate as well. Up to now, all the governments, what they have done, they have been increasing government income. Meanwhile, government expenditure has been increasing more than that. So if we do all these things without taking more loans and paying loans, then of course we will be able to manage this debt.
After the central bank was robbed in broad daylight, the foreign investors whose trust was breached started to withdraw their money from the treasury bills and securities in 2015. The central bank kept on releasing millions and billions of foreign reserves to the market as the rupee was depreciating. Because of that, the reserves owned by the country was reduced. The interest rate in the country was increased abnormally. Because of this, the loss this country has incurred from the central bank financial transactions amounts up to more than 2,000 billion rupees.
Here are some of the views expressed regarding the central bank bond scam.
Steps are being taken by the Attorney General's Department and another law and order group in order to get this done as soon as possible. If it does not happen according to plan, we expect to talk about it in Parliament.
අපිට ඒ සම්බන්ධව කටයුතු කරන්න තියෙන නීති සම්පාදන කරන ව්‍යවස්ථාදායකයේදී ඒ සම්බන්ධව කතා කරන්න අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
මේ වෙනකොට අර්ජුන් මහේන්ද්‍රන් සිංගප්පූරුවේ නැහැ.
Arjuna Mahendran is not even in Singapore anymore. Legal action must be initiated without Arjuna Mahendran. There are people who appointed him and those who advised him. Legal action can be launched against those people. Let's assume he is not arrested and he is in hiding. But a court case can be heard in absentia. They can find his property, his account reports. If we notify the Attorney General's Department of Singapore saying that he was part of the bond scam, we can file a case at the Supreme Court of Singapore and obtain his asset declarations. This should be expedited. That is the only way this issue can be solved.
මෙය තවත් මන්දෝත්සාහී ගමනක යන්නේ නැතුව මෙය ප්‍රවේගයක් බවට පත් කරන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම වුණොත් තමයි මේ තත්ත්වය විසඳ ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ.
The Ministry of Irrigation and Rural Development, which is being operated at a private building, has been re-established at the Agrarian Development Department building in Battaramulla.
The Ministry of Rural Development was established at number 492 R.A.D. Mawatha in Colombo 3 on the 1st of December 2016 on a lease agreement. This agreement was extended following its expiration on the 30th of November 2018. From that point, the Rural Economy and Livestock divisions under the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock Development and Irrigation and Fisheries had been established at that location. 9.6 million rupees had been spent monthly for the building. Accordingly, 346,653,000 rupees was spent during the 3 years. With the expiration of the extension to the agreement on the 30th of November, the government has now made a decision to move it back to the Agrarian Development Department. We have spent about 25 million on this building, the one we took for the Agriculture Ministry monthly. The Prime Minister at the time presented the cabinet paper. The Prime Minister had gone beyond the Minister at the time in presenting the paper.
Meanwhile, steps have been taken to move the Ministry of Agriculture to the Agrarian Development Department in Battaramulla from the private building in Battaramulla. The monthly rent of the building is 25 million rupees. If you look at agriculture, everything from the building has been subject to a mafia. We speak of corruption and malpractice, but we do not speak about waste. We must all make this year where waste is minimized. Both the state ministers of agriculture and irrigation expressed these views about the increase in the price of rice. In my personal view, I don't see 100 rupees for a kilogram as an unreasonably higher price. Why? Because the farmer must also receive a decent price. Our next target is to develop 10 or 15 storage facilities where at least 30,000 tons of rice can be stored. I accept that a mistake has taken place somewhere. That happened when a control price was set. It is now at 98 rupees. How did it come to that rate? This was at 74 to 78 rupees. I can see that there is a serious issue here. Now the President and the Prime Minister have come together to draft plans to sort this matter out. We believe that the price of rice will decrease again within this week. Meanwhile, Dudley Sirisena spoke about the allegations that has been levelled against him by the people who actively speak about the rice mafia. He expressed the following views at a function held in Polonnaruwa. I challenge the politicians who dragged this country to a dire state to come here and take prompt action for this issue. Is it me who is responsible for destroying the economy of the country? It is true that there is a rice shortage in the country. This is actually not a shortage that we are facing. This is a result of the way in which the government acted. Especially this silo project these miserable politicians in Polonnaruwa speak of. All the 20 silos have been filled with paddy. 16 out of those 20 have been filled with kiri samba. 1 or 2 have samba and nadu in them. Is it my fault? There is no regulation. There is no management. Am I to be held accountable for it? Am I to consume all the 7,000 tons inside those silos all by myself? This country will reap its harvest in another 2 months. If the Aralia rice mill is the reason behind the current rice crisis of the country, I would like to determine the value of my business and hand it over to the government.
Welcome back to the news. Now, the attorney representing former Minister Dr. Rajatha Senaratne, Gunaratne Vaniyaka, said that he has filed a motion at the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court requesting to transfer the former minister from the private hospital where he currently receives treatment to the Mount Elizabeth Hospital in Singapore.
Attorney at law Gunaratne Vaninayaka said he is hoping to produce the medical reports issued from the Mount Elizabeth Hospital and from the private hospital in Narahenpita to revoke the overseas travel ban imposed on the former minister. Dr. Senaratne was in the intensive care unit since 26th of December and was then transferred to the regular unit for further treatment this afternoon. Several MPs and family members visited him today as well.
Now, Parliamentarian Vijayadasa Rajapaksa says he will present proposals for the 21st and 22nd amendments to the Constitution. He made these remarks at a media briefing which was held in Colombo earlier today.
Our entire constitution is distorted. That is why I have proposed in the 21st Amendment that the minimum requirement per electoral district be restored to 12.5% from the current 5%. The 22nd Amendment has a number of proposals in it. It consists of a number of proposals including that the President must not pass on the responsibility of the Ministry of Defence to anyone else. The president has to be the head of the defense forces. There can't be a leader of the tri-forces and then a separate minister for defense. In addition, this proposes that when it comes to appointing judges to the Constitutional Council, that the president be able to appoint justices based on the advice of the Judicial Service Commission. The 22nd Amendment also proposes that the President be able to appoint the Attorney General, Inspector General of Police, Secretary of Parliament and Auditor General in consultation with the Prime Minister.
සංශෝධනය 22වෙනි සංශෝධනයෙන් ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙනවා.
State Minister for Investment Promotion Kelly Rambukwala expressed his views on the country's investments at a media briefing in Kandy today.
මේ රට ආයෝජකයන් සහ ආයෝජකයන්ගේ පැමිණීම
We are hoping to get investments worth at least $5 million. You must have seen the agreed investments that are already there. Following that, we will increase the investment amount to $500 million. And following that, we have started a lengthy program to increase it to $900 million.
මිලියන 500ක් ඒක අවසානයේ 900ක් දක්වා දීර්ඝවන වැඩපිළිවෙලකට මේ වෙනකොට අපි අද තියලා තියෙනවා.
විපක්ෂයේ විසින් චෝදනා නගනවා ඔබතුමාලා ඊටම වික්ක කියන. මේ අක්කර දුන්නට ප්‍රමාණය. ඇත්තට මෙහෙම දෙයක්.
අපේ
We have given it on lease conditions. Besides, a purchase of that land was agreed for 12.5 million rupees those days. But we have estimated one purchase for 16 million on a lease basis.
බද්දක් හැටියට.
However, parliamentarian Ajit P. Pereira expressed the following views about the relevant investments at a media briefing in Bandaragama today.
ඡන්ද ව්‍යාපාරයේදී බොහොම ඉහළින් කිව්වා මේ රටේ ජාතික සම්පත් විකුණන්නේ.
During the campaign leading up to the presidential election, they said not a single inch of national resource will be sold. However, a month after coming into power, this government takes steps to sell the most valuable property of 3.5 acres located between the Shangri-La and the presidential secretariat to a Singaporean company. We would like to know from the president and the prime minister whether tenders were called for these 3 acres. When were those tenders called? What were the companies? What were the bids? Who reviewed the tenders? Did the newly appointed secretaries of the ministries have an opportunity to review this? We think you have been deceived by someone in your government. There are thieves in your government. If you do not take any action for this, you will be betraying the 6.9 million people who voted for you at the election.
ඡන්ද දීපු ලක්ෂ 69ට ඔබතුමා ද්‍රෝහී වීමක් වෙන්නේ.
Now, residents hailing from a number of villages in Dambulla and Monoragala headed into the new year still under the constant threat of facing wild elephant attacks. This is their story.
This is a common sight in the Digampataha area along the Dambulla-Habarana main road. Residents state that elephants in the Habarana reserve crossed the road in this manner after about 6 p.m. Apart from coming onto the roads, these elephants have also begun to roam into villages, destroying cultivations.
එනකොට ගම් වදිනවා. ආයෙත් උදේ පාන්දරට ආයෙත් කුණු වලට හරි සම්බන්ධ. මේ අපිට පාරේ මුර පොලක් ලබා දුන්නා නම් අපිට ඒක ලොකු දෙයක්.
The residents of Hellanagala village in Atimale, Siambalanduwa also welcomed the new year with a fear of wild elephants. This is how elephants destroyed cultivations that had been made in the village.
We beg you, please give us some sort of relief. These have been destroyed as much as they can be. There is no two words. We are up all night suffering. We have been farming for years and even that has been destroyed by the rains. We beg you to help us in some way.
And with that, we bring to a close tonight's edition of Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Zaimal Ratnayaka.
And I'm Miyuki Portia. Take care and good night.